Picture this, a peaceful, normal town, a place where everyone knows everyone and life moves at a comfortable pace. In that town, there was Marcus M.J. Jones. He wasn't just anyone, he was the town's beloved dog trainer. Think of him, always smiling, with a kind word for every person, and an incredible way with every dog he met. He spent his days surrounded by happy barks and wagging tails. People trusted him, they loved him. He was that person who just made your day a little brighter. But then, that bright light, it just disappeared. One day, Marcus M.J. Jones was there, living his life, caring for animals. The next, he was gone, vanished. No calls, no goodbyes, just silence. And then, the discovery. A horrifying, shocking find that brought the town to its knees. His body was found in a way no one could have ever imagined, in a place that made chills run down your spine. But here's the thing. His death, as terrible as it was only the beginning of the nightmare. Because the real horror wasn't just that he was murdered, it was why, and more importantly, who was involved. This wasn't a random act. This was a brutal, calculated crime, tied to a secret that very few knew, a forbidden love, a dangerous affair with someone who held a position of power in that very town. Someone who was supposed to be a protector, but instead became something far, far worse. What you're about to hear isn't just another true crime story. It's a shocking tale of forbidden passion, of a deep, dark betrayal, and of a grisly murder that someone desperately wanted to keep hidden. This isn't just about a body found. It's about a brutal cover-up, a horrifying attempt to bury the truth and protect a powerful secret. This story will pull back the curtain on a town that thought it knew itself and reveal a darkness that will make you question everything you believe about justice, power, and the lengths people will go to hide their deepest sins. You've just heard the chilling prelude to a story that will shake you to your core. Today, we're not just telling a true crime story. We're peeling back the layers of a deeply unsettling case that shattered a community's innocence. We're about to delve into the life and tragic death of Marcus M.J. Jones, the cherished local dog trainer whose warm spirit and loving nature masked a secret that ultimately led him down a path of no return. MJ was a familiar face, a friendly presence, and someone you'd never imagine at the center of such a dark event. But beneath the surface of his seemingly ordinary life, a passionate and clandestine affair was unfolding. An affair with a man who was supposed to be a pillar of law and order in their small town, a married police officer. This wasn't just a fleeting encounter. It was a relationship fraught with immense risk, a forbidden bond built on stolen moments, and the constant fear of exposure. In this video, we'll meticulously unpack every detail, from the blossoming of this secret love to the brutal act that ended MJ's life in the most grisly way imaginable. But the horror doesn't stop there. We'll expose the shocking lengths taken to bury the truth, the desperate attempts to cover up not just a murder, but a network of lies and deceit orchestrated by those in power. Get ready because the revelations will be startling. We'll trace the initial investigation, the glaring inconsistencies, and the persistent whispers that refuse to be silenced. We'll follow the relentless fight for justice waged by those who refuse to let MJ's memory be tainted by a cover-up. This is a story of betrayal, of systemic corruption, and of the profound impact one secret can have when it explodes into public view. So settle in because the layers of this conspiracy run deeper than you can possibly imagine. What you're about to witness is a stark reminder that even in the most seemingly idyllic towns, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface, waiting to be exposed. Our journey into this tragic tale begins not with darkness, but with light. It begins with Marcus M.J. Jones. To everyone who knew him, whether it was through a brief encounter at the local market or through his dedicated work, MJ was a beacon of warmth. He was a truly remarkable man. His smile could light up a room. His laughter was infectious, and his genuine kindness touched everyone he met. He had this incredible ability to make you feel instantly at ease, like an old friend, even if you just met him. He was, first and foremost, a passionate and dedicated dog trainer. His business, Positive Steps, wasn't just a job, it was his calling. You'd see him at the park, patiently working with a boisterous puppy, or gently guiding an anxious older dog, always with that calm, reassuring demeanor. He had a way with animals that bordered on magical. Dogs that were deemed unruly or untrainable would, under MJ's care, transform into well-behaved, loving companions. His clients didn't just adore him, they revered him. They'd rave about how he not only trained their dogs, but also taught them how to connect with their furry family members on a deeper level. He was truly a pillar of the community, someone you could always count on for a smile, a comforting word, or expert advice on anything canine-related. By all accounts, Marcus M.J. Jones was living a simple, fulfilling life, surrounded by the joy he brought to both humans and animals. His days were a comforting rhythm of appointments, consultations, and group training sessions. He spent his mornings driving to clients' homes, his afternoons at the local dog park, and his evenings often dedicated to caring for rescue dogs or planning his next workshop. He was meticulous, organized, and genuinely invested in every dog and every client. He was the kind of person who remembered every dog's name, their quirks, and their progress. He poured his heart and soul into his work, and the love he received back from grateful owners and their perfectly behaved pets was his greatest reward. He was content. He was loved. But beneath this wholesome, seemingly transparent exterior, Marcus M.J. Jones harbored a profound secret, a secret that he guarded with fierce determination, a hidden part of his identity that went against the deeply ingrained social norms of his quiet, conservative town. This secret, if it were to ever come out, would certainly shatter the expectations of his family, his friends, and every single person who thought they knew the kind, gentle dog trainer. Unbeknownst to almost everyone, Marcus M.J. Jones was gay. And for many months, perhaps even over a year, he had been engaged in a passionate, intense, and profoundly clandestine affair. His partner in this forbidden romance was someone deeply entrenched in the town's establishment, someone who held a position of considerable authority and public trust, a married police officer named Officer David Thompson. This wasn't just a casual fling, a momentary lapse in judgment. No, this was a deeply emotional connection, forged in secrecy and fueled by a powerful, undeniable chemistry. Their relationship was built on stolen moments, hushed phone calls late at night, quick glances exchanged across a public square, and hidden meetings in secluded spots where they hoped no one would ever see them. It was a world of whispered promises, shared dreams, and desperate affection, all hidden in plain sight just beneath the veneer of ordinary town life. They found solace in each other, a rare understanding in a world that might not accept them. Every stolen touch, every hushed conversation was a defiant act against the expectations placed upon them. They reveled in the small moments of freedom their secret brought, even as the shadow of discovery constantly loomed. We can only imagine how their paths initially crossed. Was it through MJ's work, perhaps Officer Thompson bringing his own family dog for training? Or was it a chance encounter, a moment of connection that sparked something undeniable? Regardless of how it began, their bond grew with an intensity that defied the immense risks. How did these two men from such different worlds, one a beloved, open-hearted community figure, the other a public servant bound by duty and social expectation, navigate a relationship that threatened to unravel both their lives? They walked a perilous tightrope, each moment of stolen happiness overshadowed by the looming fear of exposure. The thrill of their hidden bond was slowly being replaced by the overwhelming weight of their secret. The constant anxiety, the elaborate lies, the need to always be one step ahead of discovery. It began to take its toll. The fear of exposure loomed larger with each passing day, casting a dark cloud over their every interaction. This was especially true for Officer David Thompson, whose entire reputation, his distinguished career, his family life, and his standing in the community stood to be utterly, irrevocably destroyed if their affair ever came to light. He had so much to lose, a seemingly perfect life that was, in reality, built on a foundation of unspoken truths and carefully constructed appearances. The pressure was immense. The stakes were impossibly high. And as that pressure built, something had to give. The fragile world they had built together, one secret moment at a time, was on the verge of collapse. The world Marcus M.J. Jones and Officer David Thompson had so carefully built on stolen moments and hushed secrets was beginning to crack. The small town they lived in, a place where privacy was a luxury and gossip traveled faster than wildfire, was becoming a cage. Whispers had started. At first they were faint, barely audible murmurs like the rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. But soon those whispers grew into a chilling hum, a constant, low thrum beneath the surface of everyday life. People were noticing things, an unusual glance, a momentary lapse in caution, a car seen in a place it shouldn't be at an odd hour. The air grew thick with suspicion, and the weight of their secret affair became almost unbearable. The risk of their clandestine relationship being exposed reached a fever pitch. Every phone call felt scrutinized, every meeting fraught with terrifying possibilities. For Officer Thompson, the stakes were astronomical. His entire life, his badge, his reputation, his family, his comfortable existence, stood on the precipice of utter ruin. The thought of his secret life being revealed, especially in a town where such relationships were met with harsh judgment, was a terrifying prospect. For MJ, while the public fallout might have been less severe professionally, the emotional cost of being outed, of potentially losing the respect and affection of the community he cherished, was immense. The beautiful, fragile bond they shared was now threatening to consume them both. Then came that fateful night. MJ believed he was meeting Officer Thompson for another secret rendezvous, just like countless times before. Perhaps it was meant to be a discussion about their future, a desperate attempt to find a way forward, or perhaps, heartbreakingly, it was meant to be the end of their difficult charade. The truth of that intended conversation, what was truly on their hearts and minds, would forever remain a mystery. MJ went to that meeting with the hope, fear, or resignation of any man meeting a lover. He stepped into the darkness, perhaps carrying a secret hope for a resolution, for freedom. But little did he know, this meeting would be his last. He walked willingly into a trap, into a moment that would forever alter the lives of everyone in that quiet town. What transpired in the shadows that night, the unspeakable act that took Marcus M.J. Jones's life, would send shockwaves through the community. It would rip apart the fabric of perceived safety and reveal a darkness far greater than anyone could have imagined. A darkness that stretched beyond a forbidden affair into the chilling depths of murder, and even more horrifyingly, a brutal, desperate cover-up. The story was only just beginning. The morning after that fateful night, the unthinkable became horrifyingly real. The quiet hum of suspicion that had been building around Marcus M.J. Jones and Officer David Thompson's secret relationship exploded into a deafening roar of horror. MJ's body was discovered. He was brutally murdered. The initial shock that ripped through the community quickly turned to confusion, then to a creeping, suffocating terror as the grim details of his death began to emerge. The beloved dog trainer, the kind soul who brought so much joy, was gone, violently taken. We must now meticulously go through the scene, the grim discovery that launched this nightmare. Who found the body? Was it a concerned client who arrived for a training session, only to find the door ajar in a chilling silence? Or was it a morning jogger stumbling upon a sight that would forever haunt their memories? The first responders arrived, their flashing lights slicing through the morning gloom, painting the scene in an eerie red and blue. But among them, perhaps even leading the charge, was Officer David Thompson. What were his initial reactions? Was he visibly distraught, as one would expect from a colleague, or did an unsettling calm, an almost detached professionalism, mask something far more sinister beneath the surface? The questions began to form, unspoken at first but powerful. As the official investigation began, inconsistencies quickly arose, like tiny cracks appearing in a seemingly solid wall. From the very start, there were details that just didn't quite add up. Witnesses reported strange sightings near the crime scene in the dead of night, a car that didn't belong, a figure moving furtively through the trees. The initial police reports, meant to provide clarity, instead seemed to raise more questions than they answered. Was the crime scene processed correctly? Were certain areas overlooked or perhaps deliberately ignored? Officer David Thompson, being on the force, was of course among the first responders. But his involvement wasn't just typical police procedure. He was deeply involved from the outset, seemingly taking a leading role, offering insights, directing actions. This naturally led to immediate questions for those with keen eyes. Why did his behavior seem subtly off? Was he simply distraught, overwhelmed by the horror of the situation? Or was there something far more sinister at play? A calculated effort to control the narrative, to steer the investigation away from himself. Were certain pieces of evidence handled unusually? Was a crucial piece of physical evidence perhaps misplaced, or a potential witness's testimony downplayed? The subtle signs of a cover-up, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, were there for those who looked closely enough. The narrative the police were trying to build around MJ's death just didn't feel right to some. It seemed too neat, too quick to dismiss certain avenues. The initial focus might have been on a random act of violence, a robbery gone wrong, but something nagged at the instincts of those who truly knew MJ and those who were paying closer attention. The silence from Officer Thompson about his connection to MJ, his feigned shock, felt hollow to those who knew him, even slightly. It wasn't long before the truth about Marcus M.J. Jones's secret life, the one he had guarded so carefully, began to surface. It didn't come through official police channels or a formal announcement. No, it seeped out the way secrets often do in small towns, through whispers and rumors that started circulating like an unstoppable current. Friends of MJ, initially hesitant to speak, started putting pieces together. A fleeting comment MJ had made, a late-night phone call he'd received, an unexplained absence. Suddenly, these fragments clicked into place. The secret affair with Officer David Thompson, the very man who was supposedly investigating MJ's murder, suddenly cast a chilling, terrifying shadow over the entire case. The victim and the potential perpetrator were entangled in a way no one could have predicted, least of all the general public. The motive, once shrouded in mystery, suddenly solidified into something terrifyingly clear. Officer David Thompson was desperate to keep his secret buried. The threat of exposure, the utter ruin of his carefully constructed life, his career, his standing in the community, his family, it was all on the line. This crushing fear, this desperate need to protect his perfect facade, pushed him to an unimaginable act. The very man sworn to uphold the law, to protect and serve, became its most egregious violator. He wasn't just a suspect, he was now understood to be the most terrifying kind of criminal, one who wielded the power of the law to commit a crime, and then to hide it. The realization that a police officer was not only capable of such brutality, but was actively involved in covering it up was a devastating blow to the town's trust. It was a betrayal on multiple levels, a betrayal of MJ, of his family, and of the community's faith in their protectors. The lines between right and wrong blurred, and the very foundation of justice felt like it was crumbling. This wasn't just about a murder anymore. It was about corruption, a chilling abuse of power, and the lengths someone would go to preserve their lie. The investigation had just begun to scratch the surface of the truth, and what lay beneath was a web of deceit, far more intricate and horrifying than anyone could have imagined. The layers of this story, as you're experiencing, are incredibly complex and deeply disturbing. We're delving into the dark corners of a case that exposes not just a brutal crime, but a profound betrayal of trust within a community that thought it was safe. If you're finding this narrative as gripping, as unsettling, and as important as I am, please take a moment right now to hit that like button. Your likes truly make a significant difference. They act as a signal to YouTube, helping this crucial content reach more people who genuinely need to hear these untold stories, who need to understand the depths of some of the secrets hidden within our communities. It's a small action, but it helps us tremendously to continue shedding light on these difficult cases and bringing these narratives to a wider audience. Also, I genuinely love to hear from you directly. Your voice matters in this conversation. Please take a moment to let me know in the comments below where you're watching this video from. Are you tuning in from New York, Canada, Jamaica, or perhaps halfway across the world, from another continent? Your engagement means so much to me, and I truly love connecting with all of you who are on this journey with us, exploring these difficult truths and seeking understanding. Your thoughts, your perspectives, and your shared experiences add so much to the collective understanding and the vital conversation around these types of stories. Don't hesitate to share what you're feeling or thinking as this story unfolds. Now, let's take a deep breath. We've just touched upon the horror of Marcus M.J. Jones's murder, but the darkness doesn't end there. We're about to move from the immediate aftermath of the crime itself into an equally, if not more, chilling aspect of this case. Let's continue with the shocking lengths taken to conceal this heinous crime, a desperate attempt to bury the truth and protect one man's powerful secret. Despite the immense powerful forces working tirelessly to bury the truth, to keep Marcus M.J. Jones's murder shrouded in darkness and dismissed as an unsolvable mystery, something remarkable began to happen. Slowly, painstakingly, the light of justice, however dim it appeared at first, began to pierce through the thick veil of deception. It was a flicker, then a persistent glow, fueled by an unwavering love and an unyielding belief in MJ's innocence and the absolute conviction that he deserved justice. His loved ones, his family, his devoted friends, and even some of his former dog training clients who had grown to cherish him, refused to let the case go cold. They refused to accept the official narrative, the dismissive shrugs, or the stone walls they encountered from authorities. They bravely, tirelessly pushed for answers, demanding a thorough investigation, scrutinizing every detail the police released, and often facing intimidation and resistance at every single turn. They held vigils, they wrote letters, they spoke to anyone who would listen, becoming amateur detectives in their own right, piecing together fragments of information that the official channels seemed determined to ignore. Their grief transformed into an unshakable resolve. We now turn to the critical turning points in this seemingly insurmountable battle for truth. It was a series of small, hard-won victories that collectively forced the doors of secrecy open. Perhaps it was a meticulous, independent investigation initiated by a determined journalist or a retired detective who felt a deep sense of unease about the case. Perhaps it was a key piece of evidence that was eventually uncovered, not by the official police, but by a vigilant citizen. A phone record that had been overlooked, a security camera footage snippet deemed unimportant, or a forgotten receipt. And perhaps, most courageously, it was the emergence of brave whistleblowers from within the system. Individuals who, despite the immense personal risk, could no longer bear the weight of the lie. They might have been junior officers, or administrative staff, or even former colleagues of Officer David Thompson, who felt their conscience screaming louder than their fear of reprisal. These courageous souls, armed with crucial information, stepped forward, finally forcing the true dimensions of the corruption and the brutal cover-up into the open. The pressure became too great, the cracks in the facade too wide to conceal the truth any longer. The climax of this agonizing story, the moment a community had been yearning for, finally arrived with the arrest of Officer David Thompson. The shock of seeing a man who once symbolized authority, who had walked the streets in uniform, now standing in handcuffs, sent a seismic tremor through the town. What followed was a dramatic, emotionally charged trial that captivated the nation. Every day brought new, shocking revelations. We will recount the emotional roller coaster of that courtroom, from the initial, hopeful days of opening statements to the grim, detailed presentation of evidence. The prosecution meticulously laid out their case, piecing together the timeline of the affair, the motive of desperation and fear, the cold execution of the murder, and the chilling, systematic nature of the cover-up. They presented the newly unearthed evidence, the damning testimonies of the whistleblowers, and the irrefutable forensic links that had previously been dismissed or hidden. But the defense, of course, fought back. They attempted to discredit witnesses, to cast doubt on the new evidence, to paint MJ's life as one of secrecy and thus somehow deserving of its tragic end. They tried to portray Officer Thompson as a dedicated public servant, caught in a malicious accusation, or perhaps as a man driven to an emotional breaking point. We will explore the compelling arguments of both the prosecution and the defense, the gasps from the public gallery, the tense cross-examinations, and the moments when the truth, however painful, became undeniably clear. And then finally, after weeks or perhaps months of agonizing waiting, came the ultimate verdict. The decision of the jury, the declaration that brought a measure of justice, however incomplete, to Marcus M.J. Jones and his suffering loved ones. The conviction of a respected police officer, a figure of authority, for such a heinous crime, compounded by the revelation of his secret life and the brutal calculated cover-up, left an indelible scar on the community. It wasn't just a verdict, it was a profound reckoning. It shattered trust in a way that would take generations to rebuild, if ever. It exposed the hypocrisy that festered beneath the surface of a seemingly perfect town, revealing the dark underbelly of power and privilege. It forced a painful confrontation with the darker side of authority, making everyone question who they could truly rely on for protection and justice. The illusion of safety and order was shattered, replaced by the stark reality that corruption could exist even in the highest places. Ultimately, this case serves as a chilling, profound reminder of the dangers of hidden lives, of secrets that become so burdensome they lead to unthinkable acts. It highlights the insidious ways corruption can fester within institutions, eroding their integrity from the inside out, and how quickly power can be abused when accountability is neglected. But perhaps most importantly, Marcus M.J. Jones's tragic story is also a testament to the enduring strength, the unwavering courage, and the sheer human spirit required to seek justice when the odds are stacked overwhelmingly against you. It reminds us of the power of collective grief turning into relentless advocacy. What lessons can we, as a society, learn from MJ's journey? Lessons about the devastating impact of prejudice, about the corrupting influence of unchecked power, and about our collective responsibility to demand unwavering accountability from those we entrust with our safety and our laws. His story, though tragic, demands that we never forget the price of silence and the necessity of shining a light into the darkest corners.